Hello everyone, this is Richard Eaton, your CTEC 134 Database Administration Instructor. This is the second part of a video series that I'm creating regarding the creation of databases and tables. In this particular video, we're going to use SQL Server, and we're going to actually create a test database and table, and we're going to discuss the data types as we create that table. I have the lecture notes that I included in my prior video here. And we refer back to that. One thing I want to explain here is that when we create objects in SQL Server, the graphical user interface allows us to do everything graphically without actually creating SQL commands. But the discussion of it in the database administration textbook is really not adequate to teach you how to use how to create all the objects for SQL Server. The other textbook is a generic textbook. It deals with any relational database, and it shows you examples of SQL commands in Oracle, in SQL Server, Access, MySQL, and essentially they're all the same. There are some minor differences, but this class is going to focus on creating actual SQL commands. So to get going, we said that we wanted to create a database called Acme Services, and in that a table called Employees, and then within the Employees table we want several columns. And then I also explained we're going to use a certain naming convention. So let's get going on that. I'm going to expand databases, and you can see that I have a database called Tal Distributors RIC, but I want to create one that's called Acme Services. So if we right-click on databases, we can say new database and just type in Acme Services, and SQL will actually create that database for you. That's the method that we are generally not going to use. If you are doing some quick testing on something, you want to figure out, you want to clarify your understanding about something, and you want to quickly create a database and throw a table into it, that method is fine. But I'm going to teach you here how to actually write a query with the commands in it. So let's start by saying, instead of saying new database, instead of right-clicking and saying new database, we're going to start by saying new query. Clicking on new query up above. And that opens a query window. In this particular area over here, we can have several queries open, all with different tabs that we'll see across the top. And as we learned in a prior video, we can actually grab these tabs and pull them down and have them float. What I want to do first is to identify what this particular query is going to do. And let's say what I'm going to do is type just some general comments. This is going to create a test database with a table or two for practice only, something like this. And I might even come down and say, this is Keaton, whatever I want. Now, if I tried to execute this, I would get errors because these are not SQL Server commands. What I would like to do is just make these comments. One way to make them a comment is to prefix what you're typing with a slash asterisk, like this, and to end with an asterisk slash, like this. And so now SQL Server would ignore everything between the slash asterisk and the asterisk slash. That's one way to do it. A method that I kind of prefer, I'm going to take these out, is to use the dash dash concepts. In other words, if I put dash dash here, that whole line is a comment. The reason why I like the dash dash method is because there's a button up here for making comments and for uncommenting. This is one's for commenting, this is for uncommenting. So if I wanted to comment all three of these lines at once, I'm going to put the cursor anywhere in these three lines. You don't have to have the whole line selected, just anywhere in these three lines. And I'm going to click the comment. So that put dash dash in front of all of them. If I wanted to uncomment them, I would just select the three lines and select uncomment. So let's start with our first command. The first command is going to be a create database command. I'm going to pause for a minute. Okay, the first thing we need to do is actually create the database. We wanted to call it, let's see, Acme Services. So the command is create database and a space, and then Acme Services. And generally, it's a good idea to put a semicolon at the end of each command. Sometimes the database is forgiving and it doesn't require you to put them in, and sometimes it actually does. I'm in the habit of putting them in. You might want to try both ways, putting them in and leaving them out and testing it and see how it works. But if I execute this right now with this execute command, it should ignore these comments and try to execute this command. Oh, by the way, you notice I typed create database in uppercase letters. It's not absolutely necessary to do that, but since it's an actual database command, the convention is, for most professionals, is to put actual database commands in uppercase letters so that we can distinguish those commands from the names of our own objects. So I'm going to execute this right now to see if it works. It said it completed successfully, but you notice I don't see it over here. So I'm going to click databases and I'm going to click the refresh key. If I can find it, here we go, refresh key. And there it is, Acme Services. Now I want to actually create a table. And the name of the table I wanted to create was employees. And so the command, I'm going to start with the comment, create employee table, and whatever else I want to say. The actual command to do that is to create table. let's back up a little bit. Let's back up a little bit. Before I do that, I want to type in a command called use Acme services. The reason why I did that is SQL Server can manage lots of different databases at one time. And when you reference objects within the database, you could fully qualify every single command with the database name, the object owner's name, the actual object name. That becomes a bit tedious. If I say use Acme services, SQL Server will assume I'm always, whenever I'm referring to objects, it will be in the Acme services database. So I'm going to execute this all by itself. If I click, by the way, if I click execute right now, I would get an error because SQL Server would come down here and say, let's create the database, but it already exists. And I will get an error that says, you can't create that database, it already exists. So that piece would fail. One thing I could do, of course, is I could comment it out like this, so it does not execute. And then I could run execute up here, and it would skip that and then run use Acme services. Another method is, I uncommented it, is to simply select the command I want to run all by itself and then execute it. And it said it completed successfully. All right, now let's go on and create our table. The command is, and I'm going to use uppercase letters, create table. And I'm going to now name my table. And I said in my notes I wanted to call it TBL employees. And then we're going to put in a left parentheses and start listing our data types. The first data type is, the first column is going to be employee number. And so I think I'll go down a line and hit tab just for, and tab to insert for readability, and type in employee number. Upper and lowercase characters with no spaces. And I'm going to put in a tab and type in character. And in parentheses, I'm going to guess at how long of an employee number I want to use. I certainly don't want to use a big, long number. I don't want to use 256 characters for an employee number. I want to limit it to something smaller. I'm going to just say 10 for now. And then a right parentheses. And I want this to be a primary key, so I'm going to type in primary key. And I'm done with that column, and I'm going to put in the next column. The next column should be first name. And I'll do tab, and that's going to be a character data type. And how big could a first name be? 25? 20? Let's say it's 20. And that's all I want to do for that. And I'm going to put in the last name field and guess that maybe that's going to be 20 also. Oh, and I see I made a mistake here. 20. Let's say for right now, that's all I want in this table. Because I think I'm running short on time for this video. So I'm going to go ahead and put in another right parentheses here. I'm not going to finish this table. I'm just going to stop right here. And I put a semicolon. And I'm going to execute before I execute this, I'm going to save. I'm not going to execute this yet. I'm going to save this, and I'm going to click the Save button. And it's actually going to save the SQL script for me. And I'm going to navigate down to where I want to save this script. I think I'm going to go with, let's see, I have a flash drive. With CTEC 134. I have a temp directory. Okay, I created a folder on my flash drive called CTEC 134 assignments. I created a folder called week 2, and I might call this practice creating Acme services. And I'm not going to type a period or an extension. It's going to put SQL on for me. I'm going to do save now. I'm going to go ahead and close this. And then I'm going to stop this video, and we'll come back to this video, and we will open this SQL script up and finish our first table. So